Welcome back to the second lesson in the AWS IAM section of this course. In the last section, we worked with creating a user, creating access keys, attaching permissions, and deleting the user by detaching all the permissions we gave to that user. And in this lesson, we will create our role for our EC2 so that we can launch an EC2 with a role. Now, if you go to the documentation for EC2 CLI, then you'll find nowhere when I search for role, attach role, right? I find role mentioned nowhere. And that's because to associate a role with your EC2 instance, you have to work with something called instance profile. So instance profile right here. This is the documentation for associate IAM instance profile. And what you need to do is you need to create the instance profile first, and you can use this with your EC2. But before you can create the instance profile, we have to do a few things first. So why don't we get started with creating that instance profile for us to use with Amazon EC2. I'm in my folder which has this file called EC2 trust policy.json, and I'll show you what I have in there. So I have this policy which says principal allow service of ec2.amazonaws.com of action that is assume role. Now, to understand that, we have to go back to our IAM console. And if I were to say IAM, and if I wanted to create a role, I would say create a role, then I would be taken to this screen, and I can see 1, 2, 3 step process to create a role. So the first step is select type of trusted entity, right? So I'll select AWS service, and I will go and select on EC2, right? So this is the thing we are doing right here. We're saying the service EC2 is trusted, it's a trust policy, and the action is I can assume a role. And as I scroll down, then it says allow EC2 instances to call AWS services on your behalf. So this is what we're doing with the trust policy. We will use this policy when we are creating a role. So if I said next, so when I choose an EC2 and say next, then I'm prompted to attach a policy. So in the case of CLI, what I will do is, first of all, the first step is AWS IAM create role name, role dash name, EC2 admin CLI, right? So or let's say I want an S3 access. Role name will be S3 access for EC2, right? So I want to give S3 access to my EC2 instance that I will be creating with this role. So role name is this, and the policy dash ARN is going to be now we did this in the lesson before this, so I know what this is going to be, and but why don't we find the policy one more time? So AWS IAM list dash policies, and I'm going to grep for S3 full. That's what I get. S3 full access. This is the policy that I want, right? So AWS IAM create role dash role name S3 access for EC2. So I'm giving S3 access for my EC2 instance. Dash policy dash ARN is going to be the one I just copied, and enter. Oops. So the role name is written wrongly, which should be role dash name. Oh yeah, so this is where the policy document comes in. So I get an error saying assume policy role policy document is required, and this is when I say dash assume role policy dash document, and I need the file. So file, and the file will be the file that I have in my folder, which is this. So I'm going to copy the name and paste this over here. Oops. So the error that I'm getting is unknown options policy ARN of that. So policy role name policy ARN of ARN at Amazon for S3 full access. I don't know why I'm getting this policy. So unknown options policy ARN Amazon S3 full access. Okay, so I'm gonna start creating the role now, and I will say AWS IAM create dash role name of EC2 access S3. You know, I want my EC2 to access the S3 buckets, and I'm going to say dash assume dash role dash policy dash document, right? And file of, I'm gonna go all the way up to my file with that policy that I showed you, this policy, and come all the way down and say this. So enter. So what I did here was the same thing that I would do when I'm creating a role here, right? I'm saying allow me to assume a role, and the service that I will assume a role is with Amazon EC2. So that's what I just did here. I just created a role and attached the policy document to that role. I haven't given any access to that right now. I'm just saying, you know, this role has the permissions to assume a role for now. That's it. Now I will need to give this a certain policy, right? So the policy that I want to use, I used that in the last lesson, and the way to find that is AWS IAM list policies, and I'm going to grep and search for S3 full. If I don't do this, I get a long list. So I grep this and I copy the ARN, right? So what I can do now is say AWS IAM attach dash role dash policy. Now the attach role policy to what? To role name dash role name of, this is the name of my role, so role name of this, and the policy dash ARN is going to be the one I just copied, which is this, right? So this, I just copied this, so policy ARN, oops, I already copied something else. So I copy this one more time, and policy ARN, I paste this, and let me make sure if I need anything else in here. So let's try this. Okay, so I think I have that attached now because I didn't get any errors. Now, as I showed you earlier, we still have to create an instance profile, right? Instance profile. We don't, and the way to create that is by saying AWS IAM create instance profile. Now this is like a container for that profile, right? There's nothing in this container so far. When we're creating a container first, so IAM create instance profile dash dash instance profile dash name. I'm going to say EC2 access S3. Now this can be anything. I'm just saying I want the container, the instance profile to be this, of this name. So this is just a container. So we have an instance profile that doesn't have anything. It's just an empty container for now. But then we are going to attach the role to this instance profile, and then only this instance profile will be useful, and we can attach this to the Amazon EC2 instance. So let's go and attach the role we created earlier. To do that, we'll say AWS IAM add role to instance profile dash dash instance profile name, and the name is going to be the one we just created here, and we also need the role to attach. So the role name is going to be EC2 access S3, right? Now, so here, okay, so just to review one more time, what we did was so steps we just did was to first of all create a role, right? And we attached a policy to that role, and then we created an instance profile, which is just an empty container, and finally we attach the role to the instance profile so that this instance profile is useful, and we are going to use this right after this. But just to summarize, this is the steps we went through. All right, So now I have that. I want to make use of that instance profile name, right? So to do that, what I will do is I will launch an EC2 instance with that profile. So AWS EC2 run dash instances dash image ID, and the image ID, I'm gonna say, I have this written down here so I know I don't memorize this just to be clear. 6057 E21A, and instance type of t2.micro, right? Now after this is where we attach. Now if I run this command the way it is, then no problem, I can still run my instances. But then I want to attach the role I just gave this. So I'm going to say dash IAM. So finally we come to when I right here, associate IAM instance profile, right? This is AWS EC2 associate IAM instance profile. So IAM instance profile of, now I can do it two ways. I can either give it a name, so if I go to run instances command, which I'm using, and search for instance profile and go all the way down to the actual documentation, then I can either give an ARN or a name. So I'm going to be giving this a name, and to do that I have to say name equals EC2, actually profile name is EC2 access S3. Enter. So I unknown options IAM instance profile. Oh, I don't need a comma there. No, I don't have a comma. So dash IAM instance profile name equals Alright, so we have to do some troubleshooting here. So run instances, IAM instance profile, that's what I have, IAM instance, oh, a typo. So instance profile, I missed an N. So when I do that, there we go. So I can check for the role, or why don't we go to our EC2 console to confirm. Oops, this is the wrong account. So I'm quickly going to go to my other account and go to EC2, and I have 3 instances running. So this, I want to come back and check. So the instance ID is I04F5 right there, this one, and I want to check the role, and when I come to IAM role, then I have this attached here. So when I click on it, click on the role, I have the S3 full access. So in this way I can make a role to be used with Amazon EC2 instances. And since we use EC2 so much, I think this is one of the important tool to have, a important skill to have to create a role with your command line interface. So I hope you you are okay with the steps. So just to review one last time, we created a role first, attached a policy to that role, created an instance profile, attached the role to the instance profile, and used that instance profile when we launched the Amazon EC2 so that we had the role attached to the instance. Okay, so this was the lesson, and I will see you in the next section.